Your agent interrupts too much, or it sounds too monotone, or the pacing feels off. You know something's wrong, but you don't know which setting to change. And most builders are stuck here, trying to change the prompt in order to have the agent not interrupt so much, or tweaking random settings without understanding what they control. So today I'm walking you through every single text-to-speech setting in retail, so you can always identify the problem and fix it reliably. And it all starts with understanding your use case. You need to understand who the agent will be talking with. A mom calls a medical office with kids screaming in the back of the car. This creates all sorts of problems which are avoidable. And I'm going to show you which settings to tweak. But those same settings that fix that use case completely fall over when you're talking to an insurance company, where the conversation needs to be quick and dynamic and share some information, ask for some information back, and we're done. And this is far from a copy my settings video. By the end of this video, you'll understand the underlying functionalities of these settings, what each speech setting actually controls, and how to think about optimizing them. So you'll leave knowing how to diagnose and fix your own issues, instead of guessing or asking for help every time something sounds off. Let's start with the voice model settings. We'll get to the speech settings in a second. So for voice model, I have for the longest time recommended 11 Labs Turbo V2. It works really reliably. Why not 2.5? What happens with 2.5 is that it is multilingual, and that creates a lot of unintended side effects. Things that sounded fine in English for V2 just suddenly don't sound very good in V2.5. So that's my recommendation. For voice speed, again, depends on your use case. This is simply a speed up, speed down toggle for everything in the voice agent. When it comes to, say, spelling numbers in a natural and slow way, that is something that you get to work on the prompt, not here. But something that can make your agent sound more natural is voice temperature. Actually lowering voice temperature. You'll see on the left it says calm, on the right it says emotional. I don't know that that's what I would call it. It's on the right it's more jumpy, and on the left is more stable. I generally prefer having this around 0.9. It makes that awkward jumpiness less awkward. And for voice volume, this I ever only vary if the client complains, but it's usually that they have the phone too loud while testing. So not too much to do here. Just keep in mind that if your voice agent sounds too monotone, you can increase voice temperature. And if it is too jumpy, you can reduce it. Now let's hit save. I'm gonna touch on multilingual in a second. First, I wanna show you the speech settings. Now let's go one by one. Background sound. This is completely optional. There are a few different options, like I like coffee shop. We just don't really need it in our use cases, and our clients haven't really asked for them. Then we have responsiveness. This is very misunderstood. Responsiveness by default is at a 1, which means that as soon as the transcriber is done transcribing the words of the user, it will send it to the LLM to generate an answer, to generate the voice in order to answer to the human. That happens in less than a second, and sometimes less than a second is too little time. We're getting to the point where these voice agents are a little too fast and can interrupt the user while they're still thinking, or they're between sentences but want to continue speaking. That's the importance of understanding your use case. If you're calling from a medical office to confirm an appointment and you know that these people are usually in a rush, then you would want to have responsiveness high. You don't want to create any more latency than you absolutely need to. When the question is just, hey, are you going to make it to your appointment tomorrow at 11:30? Yes or no? And if no, okay, do you need to reschedule? What date? And we can just keep it crisp at high responsiveness. But for most use cases, there is a little bit of a conversation that happens between the user and the agent. So what I usually do is bring this down to 0.96. What this means, each 0.01 that you reduce adds 50 milliseconds to latency. We just reduced this by 0.04, so that is 200 milliseconds of latency that got added. And you can see at the bottom there, it says responsiveness. And in most of our use cases, we don't have responsiveness at a 1, because the annoyance of unintentionally interrupting the user is worse than the small amount of latency that gets added to the agent. So 0.96 is what we start with, and if the client or the users want it more crisp, we can increase it. If they want more time to think, like you're calling older people that take their time to think, take their time between sentences, you would want to reduce this even more. Then we come to interruption sensitivity. This is not when the user is speaking, but when the AI is speaking. And if the user is trying to interrupt the AI, how fast does the AI stop speaking to listen to what the user has to say? Higher interruption sensitivity will take less time for the user to interrupt the AI, and lower interruption sensitivity, it takes longer. I'm gonna say stop, 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 and you're gonna get an example of how slow or how fast it is. Keep in mind that this is really, really good to tweak when you're having issues with background noise, people speaking in the background, children screaming in the back seat. So let me show you what happens when I have it at a 1. Hello, could you tell me about yourself?
Hello, I'm an AI assistant created by Oli.
See, so after that first stop, it just stopped. Very crisp, very fast. But that means that any background word that gets caught by the transcriber would also make the agent stop, and it's super awkward. We don't really want that. I'm gonna lower this down to the lowest we've ever done it for a use case, 0.6, 0.5, I believe. And I'm gonna show you the difference. Hello, can you tell me about yourself?
Hello, I'm an AI assistant coded by OpenAI, designed to help answer your questions, provide information, and assist with a wide range of tasks.
Stop.
Okay, I'll pause here.
Yeah.
If you need
that was like,
continue, just let.
yeah, it keeps going. It's very hard to interrupt. And that's the
Thanks for letting.
that just means that 0.5 is too low, right? When you're using, there's a lot of disclaimers. You don't want the user to interrupt, then you would just bring it really low. More often than not, we use it at 0.7. So why don't you start at 0.8, 0.7, and then tweak it? Now you know what to tweak if you want to make the agent more crisp and more interruptible, or if you want to avoid background noises. Back channeling is not something that we use. I don't think the technology is quite ready or quite sophisticated enough. It just ends up with bad timing. Back channeling, for those that don't know, is if I am speaking and there's another person in front of me, they go, okay, yeah. So they're like active listening and expressing with that that they are listening to me. The AI doesn't really know how to time it. It's not very well done here or in any other platform that I've tested. Then enable speech normalization. I like having this on. It converts text like numbers, currencies. Retail has done a fantastic job at this since the first time I ever used their platform. I was actually amazed that I was having a lot of issues with saying prices, and the first time I tried it on retail, it just worked. And it was like, oh my god, a breath of fresh air. It just adds a little bit of latency, 100 milliseconds of latency. So keep that in mind, up to you. I think people obsess too much over latency. Humans are not used to the ChatGPT app level of crispness. So as long as it's below 2 seconds, you're usually fine. Then reminder message frequency. I don't really like this. I keep this at like maybe a minute and one time. And what this does is, if there's no sound on the other side, if the user is just not speaking, then it would send a reminder, hey, are you still there? I don't think that's very useful for most use cases. There are some use cases where it will be, but you can't really turn it off. So if you absolutely don't need it, put it at 120 seconds. Usually I put it at 60. Then pronunciation. This one's fun. This helps with issues where a company name or a person's name is mispronounced by the AI. My first recommendation is find a voice where it is better pronounced. My second recommendation is, if you are using any other language apart from English, even if you're using English, just make sure you're setting the right English. This helps with transcription. It also aids with voice generation as long as you have a voice that is compatible, say with like British English, right? So keep that in mind. Those are my first 2 recommendations. And then my third recommendation is then you can get into pronunciation. So I'm gonna go Alejo. Okay, cool. So there are 2 types of pronunciation standards that are very, very widely used. There's IPA and CMU. CMU is the one that is more human readable, and I'm gonna show you an example and how to use it for yourself. There's 2 ways that I've done this in the past. I'm gonna show you both ways. First is with advanced voice. Hey, I need an IPA and CMU standard pronunciations, so you are now my expert at IPA and CMU standards.
Absolutely.
Okay, lovely. So can you please put in IPA and CMU standards my name, Alejo?
Sure thing.
So here's a fun update. All the audio for the rest of the video got deleted, so it just never got recorded. So it's all good. I know what I'm talking about. I can do it again. And let me show you ChatGPT's output on that voice conversation. So he said essentially, absolutely, let's dive right in. In IPA, Alejo would typically be transcribed something like Alejo with, then that's kind of how you pronounce it. So you're stressing the le part a bit, and that J sound is kind of a throaty H sound. Okay, lovely, awesome. And this is IPA. It also shows CMU. So in short, this is the spelling in IPA, and in CMU, it's this, right? And let me kind of describe this for you. CMU works on sounds. It's much more human readable. The numbers are essentially level of emphasis. So A is the sound, AH is the sound, A, L, A, H, O. And the 0 is that there's little emphasis. The 1 is that there's more emphasis. Alejo, right? So this CMU is much more human readable. It's much more modifiable once you get used to it. I don't suggest that you get so deep into pronunciation that you're manually editing the pronunciation syntax. It's not worth it. I've tried it, and it's awesome. It's fun, but it's not worth it. And then IPA has a different syntax that if you don't know, then you can't do anything about it. It's whatever ChatGPT gives you, and that's that. So be mindful of not overdoing pronunciations, because the output is not that, it's not gonna give that much to your use case. If you really want to work on it, change the spelling directly in the prompt such that you get the voice that you chose to say it correctly. So if I don't give it a spelling, I might go something like lay ho, right? And then I'm gonna try different spellings to see how the agent gets to say it consistently. But because I'm keen on showing you the depths of what you can do with these settings, let's add the pronunciation. We're gonna go with Alejo pronunciation. We're gonna go with CMU. I just enjoyed more, and I'm gonna paste in what ChatGPT wrote. Okay, so there we have it. This is not gonna be perfect because again, it's just, ChatGPT voice making this. So it's at the end of the day kind of guessing, but you can iterate on it for wherever your word is. Just get used to the syntax if you're going this way. So we're gonna save that. We're going to bloop, and we're gonna ask it to say Alejo when the call starts. So let's check it out.
Alejo.
Okay, can you say that again?
Alejo.
Okay, also good. Technically, it is correct. Can you say it again?
Alejo.
Okay, cool, awesome. So it is a lot more consistent. On that second time, the tone changed, but the emphasis remained the same. It was Alejo. It's kind of like Alejo, but it didn't say Alejo. It didn't change the emphasis, and that's kind of what gives words the right pronunciation, where the emphasis is. Okay, let's keep it going. Now we're gonna scroll down to call settings. Real-time transcription doesn't really affect the pronunciation, so I'm gonna skip it. You can check out the transcription video, the perfect transcription video, for more information on that. Call settings. Okay, so some of these are like outbound use cases, like voicemail detection is not necessarily like quality of voice, but it's more experience, right? Experience for the user. So do you want to enable keypad input detection? The user can put in numbers if your use case is relevant for your use case. This is what I really want to show you. End call on silence usually defaults at 10 minutes, which is not quite appropriate. Why would somebody be on silence for 10 minutes? And then you hang up the call. So we usually do like maximum 2 minutes. It all depends on your use case. So keep remembering that. If you're calling a bank and they're going to leave you on hold, then you might want to have this higher, right? But just keep it reasonable to your use case. Then max call duration usually starts at 1 hour by default. You want to bring this down. And my rule of thumb is don't do more than double of the longest possible call. If your client says, yeah, our calls on average are 2-3 minutes, and you ask them, what is the longest call that you've had? Well, 6 or 7 minutes. Okay, well, then you bring it to, 13, 14 minutes max. Because at the end of the day, people do talk differently to an AI than they talk to a human. And sometimes calls might go a little longer. Sometimes they might go a little shorter, right? But if you want to extra protect yourself that the call doesn't end too soon, I would do it at double the maximum duration of the call. And then ring duration doesn't affect voice. It's more when you're doing an outbound call, how long should the phone ring for until the outbound call gets hung up? Now let me show you something that most people don't actually know about, and it's actually in Home. If you go to your call history, you'll be able to see all the calls that happened, and you'll be able to get the recording, which you can listen to understand how your agent is actually talking to real users, which is different than when it talks to you, because when you build it, you unconsciously tap into the good sides of the agent. You talk at the pace that you know it's going to answer you at. You don't think for too long, or you add an in between sentences so it doesn't interrupt you. It's something we naturally do as builders. But real users don't know that, and real users don't do that. So in call history, you will get the transcript, right? The text. You will also get the audio. And one thing you can do is view in Playground and kind of call it yourself, check out the call history, and then play as if you were the user. You can call it, you can bring this up over here, and it's like, yes, it's doing that weird thing again. So then the intention of replicating what the user is doing, so you can try to replicate the issue from the agent and then go fix the voice, go fix the voice model and this and that. Usually it'll be around interruption that you have trouble with. So remember, if it's all about understanding your use case, understanding the audience, understanding who your voice agent is going to talk to. This is a law firm example that I did for my how to build and sell voice agents masterclass. And we were playing around with like the idea of, well, who are we going to be talking to? These are people that we're going to need patience when talking, empathy when talking, right? So we want to give them space. And for that reason, we would lower this down a little bit. They're not looking for the fast, like I want to get this done with. It's like, hey, I need a lawyer. Here's the situation. They might take their time to think, and you don't want to interrupt them. So it's all about understanding your use case. If it's kind of the opposite and you're calling people, you're doing outbound calls, then you might want to keep it crisp, right? Like you're calling an insurance company with a voice AI. Okay, great. It's like to the point, information gathering, boom, 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 done, next. So we just covered every text-to-speech setting in retail. And you now have an understanding of not only every setting, but how different settings interact with each other, how you can get real world calls and you'll know exactly what to go change to fix different issues. But don't jump the gun on changing the agent. Make sure you have at least 2 examples of some weird voice or interruption happening before you go and do any changes. Because these are a lot of non-deterministic systems chained together, sometimes something happens, there's a delay, there's a lag, so the telephony didn't hear that the user was interrupting the agent, so the agent didn't stop. There's a million reasons why things can go wrong in a call. So make sure you have at least 2 examples of something going wrong before like jumping on something like, hey, the agent's doing this. And it's like, well, how many examples of this do we have? And try to do micro optimizations at a time until something isn't happening anymore. Don't jump from 0.96 to 0.8 just because you want to fix it, because it's going to create other problems when you over optimize. So two of the key takeaways are: number one, understand your audience, and number two, stop guessing. Use logic to listen to a call recording. It's like, oh wait, I'm hearing this. The agent is interrupting the user. Which setting do I know that helps with the agent not interrupt the user? And then, yes, responsiveness. And if you ever need to come back to this video, if you need to bookmark it, it's hard to learn all these things in one go, especially just a tutorial. You learn by doing. And doing is what we do in our school community. We talk about these issues every single day, and there's new use cases, new people working on different things that face different issues. The important thing is understanding the fundamentals and knowing how to apply them. So if you're working on an interesting voice AI use case, if you want to build and sell voice AI agents, come join our school community. The link is below. There is a free trial, and there are 4 live events a week where I can help you build and sell better. And I am really curious, what is the setting that was most surprising or most useful that you just learned about? Or maybe it was like something I was clarifying. I'd love to read it in the comments, because we hear from people in our school community, but I love to hear from the broader YouTube community. Which one of these are you gonna go and implement? Hopefully it helps you solve an issue you've been facing. My name is Alejo, and please remember to never stop prompting.